Come November 6, voters in Anambra State will take to the polls to elect a new governor. The new governor will succeed the incumbent, Mr. Willie Obiano, who has been on the saddle for almost 8 years. The gladiators are people we'll know, people whose names have become staple in Anambra politics. The governing party, the ABGA, has the former CBN governor, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, as its candidate. The APC has fielded the veteran Andy Uba, and the PDP's candidate is Valentin Ozibo, while Mr. Ifeanyi Uba is running again under the flag of Young People's Progressive Party. But this election is one election that is in the hearts of many Nigerians beyond Anambra State. It's an election that has been dogged by tension, election that has been dogged by violence. There are concerns that the indigenous peoples of Biafra, the IPOP group, which has been proscribed by the federal government, are threatening to derail the election. In fact, IPOP threatened to visit its campaign of violence on the elections. Meanwhile, INEC has said it will need up to 25,000 staff to manage the election. I take that again because it is so important for INEC to deploy 25,000 staff in one state to conduct the election. The police have also said they will deploy thousands of officers to oversee the election, but many concerns remain. On the program tonight, we are bringing all these issues to focus, and I have with me the national chairman of the National Conscience Party, Dr. Yunus Atanko, and Mr. Madu Onora, who is the publisher of Global Upfront News. Thank you and welcome to Daily Politics.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
So I start with you, sir. The federal government has been concerned about this election, that particularly INEC 2-3 months ago, it alerted Nigerians about the rising security situation. So let us look at the worst case scenario. Supposing elections do not hold in Anambra State on November 6, what can happen?
Worst case scenario, election will hold, but it will not be the normal election.
Okay.
Because
supposing it doesn't hold, because that possibility exists. So if it doesn't hold, let's think of what can actually happen, that possibility.
It will be a slap on the Nigerian democracy.
Okay.
And it will be a disaster for Nigeria.
Okay.
If the Anambra election doesn't hold.
Okay.
Because it means that a non-state actor has caused the state to lose its authority to do the normal thing, which is to conduct an election, a statutorily mandated election that will usher in a new government in Anambra State. It will be a major failure on the part of the state when it happens. And we pray it doesn't come to that.
Okay.
Because nobody should envisage that in the first instance.
Okay. Dr. Tanko, but if the election doesn't happen, what about the constitution beyond the fact that a non-state actor will have stopped the federal government from doing what it's mandated to do? What about the constitutional situation, the constitutional crisis? What will happen in Anambra State?
Well, I think what is available to my knowledge will be a state of emergency.
Okay.
That will be declared on the state.
Okay.
And that will mean, of course, the federal government are not appointing a military leadership that will handle that particular state, or the case may be. I don't know the provisions of the constitution as it were, but I think maybe that is what will result to. But as a Democrat, somebody who has been on the street for a very long time, for the advent of democracy, I wouldn't pray that it will result to that situation. Rather, what I would have opted out for is to ensure that life and property, which is contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which of course Mr. President swore to uphold, will enact that his power to ensure that the lives and property of Anambra citizens is protected so that they can perform their civic right. From my knowledge of Anambarians, it's been for a long time, they have not been too much involved into this IPOP thing. They are more or less a less involved person. But most of the problem that I had, even where it is more predominant, is because there's no fairness parity and equity even in electing leaders. And if that should happen, if there's a sign of clarity, and then we need a lot of propaganda, but a lot of announcement and reorientation of the people, so that if the federal government will protect all of its loopholes, military existing and all the borders, and making sure that they are sure that their lives are protected, it will encourage Anambrans to come and perform
Thank you.
civic rights.
Thank you. Mr. Onora, he's saying that the majority of Anambrarians are not involved in this IPOB issue. First of all, I want to know, is that true? One. And if it is true, why then are we having this situation with IPOB in Anambra to the extent that we're afraid that elections may not hold at all?
You know, one thing about the average Anambra person is that he's more worried about his business than any other issue. Anambra people are not that politically active. It's only the big men in Anambra State that get money that want to be something in the state. The average Anambra man wants to do his business. And so they are not part of the original field officers of any non-state group. What has happened is that because there is is a major hub of business, it attracts all manner of people. And then it has come to be that the remnants, in quotes, in other states in the southeast are there, because you will see some businesses to do, and they are the people who are actually the field officers of these groups, not the average Anambra man who has a shop. Anybody who has a shop cannot leave his shop to go and do that. What has happened is that most of the people who cannot learn the art of business the way we used to do it when we were growing up, you have to go to your master and stay for 7 years. Some of them cannot complete the 7 years they are out. You want to learn a skill, you cannot learn a skill. You want to go to school, you cannot complete your education. These are the people who are...
But before now, in Anambra State and in the entire southeast eastern Nigeria, there's always been that separation of IPOB agitations with all other activities, particularly the politics. So why are we having a situation now where IPOB is becoming central to the political developments in the state?
What has happened is the failure of the government, both at the federal and state level.
Okay.
The governance has been on a wall.
Okay.
If you travel by the road, most of the roads are not what it used to be. The state government used to handle this road. They are not doing it. So people don't feel government. And so it's easy to now go to somebody that will promise an utopia that if I get power, everything will be so easy. And if the government on ground have been able to do things they need to do, provide the basic amenities the way it used to be, this thing wouldn't be an issue. But we have come to a situation where even security-wise, for over 2 years, the citizens were lamenting on what they were going through in the hands of the security agents posted there. There was clamor for regional security system, like the Amotekun. The UPTI I'm talking to you, it has not been in place. So when
if it's not in place, what about Eastern Security Network? Isn't that the Amotekun of southeastern Nigeria?
No, because it is the Eastern Security Network is a part of IPOB, a non-state actor. They are not working with anybody. They are like free agents. And so it's a different thing from the Ebubago group that will work with all the other security systems in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There should be a difference between them. One is just solely on his own, implementing his own agenda.
Dr. Sanko, do you agree that IPOB and particularly Eastern Security Network, the ESN, which is the military wing of the IPOB, do you agree that they are on their own? Is it possible for somebody to fund and run a militia network all on their own, either in the East or anywhere in the country?
Well, there was a partial support by the people and on the part of government trying to see if they can institutionalize the Eastern
Which government, federal or state?
The state government in particular. You see, I will agree to the fact that...
No, sir, I don't agree with you that...
I'll bring you along. Thank you.
You know why I said so?
Yes.
At a point in time when people have fear in them,
yes,
that there's a group who is trying to instill fear in terms of your own day-to-day work, you either of tacitly supporting them or you opt. That is the reason why I mentioned the support.
Okay.
And then when it comes to the issue of the support from the government is trying to show that we are in control. We can support financially and with vehicles so that the Eastern Network will carry out its statutory function in defending the state. So you see, there are some tacit support from both ends. Unfortunately, those who are running that particular organization are not in the interest of the people, neither in the interest of the government. They are interested in their own particular line of duty, what they want to establish, which is the secessionist agenda. And that becomes a big problem for the leaders in that particular region. Quite honestly.
Thank you.
The reason for either Amotekun or Bebeagu or Shege Kafasa, all of them were all part of failures of governance right from the beginning. Had it been that government have done what it ought to have done, I've been to the southeast, I've been to Anambra on several occasions, so I know the decay in the area of lack of care, in terms of erosion, in terms of road network, in terms of neglect. As he rightly said, Anambarians are businessmen. If you look at it, even in the whole of Nigeria completely, they are some of the most richest people, and they don't reside in the city. They reside in the villages. Like in Newi, for example, and where you have Mfa Yumba, and then the owner of Kocharis and all of them. They are individually endowed, and you can't take away that from them. And so they develop their localities in the most highest level. Unfortunately, they don't feel the impact of governance.
According to a report recently by the Attorney General's office, that IPOB, they have killed over 167 people. Since 167 people, in the last few years in the southeastern Nigeria. That doesn't speak, like people who are business-minded.
Let be frank.
Yes.
In the course of agitation, there's a lot of things that go. In fact, the people in the southeast are so angry to a point that they believe that their people are being killed unprotected. The way you lose a life in the southeast is not the same way you lose a life in the north. One single soul in the southeast is count like as if 100 souls. But maybe when you are killing 2,000 or 3,000 in the north, when you people do not look at it as anything, they look at it seriously as something. Because the level of their population is not equitable to yours. So definitely the killings is very, very high for anybody in the east, and they are angry with government for not protecting the lives of their own citizens. That is a fact.
Thank you. So, Mr. Onora, you've been a veteran journalist. You're familiar with the environment that we're talking about. The violence in Anambra State, and in particular, the concern that people have about it now, is not about IPOB activities in general, but the impact it can have on the elections and the constitutional logjam that can generate. So what, in your opinion, do you think that, either the government or INEC or the state governments or the state governors or the political parties can do to ensure that elections actually hold in Anambra State?
Before I get to that, I want to correct one impression. I don't believe that the Eastern Security Network, the ESN, which is an arm of IPOB, has ever been funded or supported by any government agency or state, federal or local. Officially, no. I can...
Unofficially?
Unofficially, I don't think so. Because most of the people who are in IPOB finger anybody in government as part of the problem of underdevelopment, of the marginalization, and the appearance of
For how long can we continue to tolerate violence in Nigeria as an explanation for why things are not working? Yes.
Nobody in his right senses will support violence.
Okay.
I'm only explaining to you that it is ESN is ESN.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the regional security group called the Bubagu or Moteko or whatever. Now, election is coming. The federal government, the state government owe it as a duty to the people of Anambra State to hold this election. It might be an imperfect election, but it has to hold. Already the police are deploying tens of thousands into Anambra State. The federal government, President Muhammad Buhari, see it as a personal challenge that under him, an election was threatened. He should move in enough security to guarantee the movement of people from their homes to the polling booths and secure the polling booths. That's all that needs to be done.
Okay.
Otherwise, this issue of trying to even envision of not holding that election is too scary for any right-thinking person.
Okay. Dr. Tanko, you said you are a Democrat.
Yes.
Now, a situation where you have tens of thousands of policemen being deployed in a state to hold one election, and where INEC will have 25,000 staff in the election, because the more INEC staff you have in the state during the election, the greater the security challenge to protect those staff, because government will now have first the obligation to protect the INEC staff primarily, but also the Nigerians and Anambrans who will go out to vote in the elections. So what do you think will happen to the legitimacy of the election? If you have thousands of security people, wouldn't it scare, wouldn't it
at this point
depress voters?
At this point in time, the people need succor. They need somebody who will protect them.
Okay.
I can tell you, like I said, it's not all Anambarians that are interested in any area of successions. And many have already accepted to the fact that they are businessmen, they like to go there, do their own businesses, and in comfort and making sure that nothing happens. But they need security. Some of the sit-at-home order that is being given, many are scared of their lives. If you come out to go to your business, somebody will come and break your shop and sell it. So how would I put myself in danger? I've watched so many videos where things like that happen. So, but because they are not feeling the impact of the government itself in place to protect them, so that they can rise up to the occasion. Quite honestly, they have a right to agitate for certain things that they feel is wrong in their own area. I will support that. But at the same time, it should be done within the ambience of laws and order. And it is done everywhere in the world. So now it's a different scenario.
Okay.
The people need to be protected. So if you deploy a lot of military men, a lot of police, civil defense, any other security, when the people feel that they are being secured and protected, they will come out and perform their civic right.
Okay.
So it is behove on the federal government to do the right thing. Not only will they bring those particular military and police and everything, no, they have to assure the people that they are out to protect them, because accusation has always been that some military men or some policemen mistaken some other individual to be IPOB member and they end up being killed in the process, and that sparked up a lot of problems. What we don't want as a Democrat, what we don't want is to usher in an unaccepted leadership in the state, so that the people will not feel that somebody is being hoisted on them, and that, of course,
just a minute. Just a minute. Thank you very much. Let me bring Mr. Onora to the discussion. In Nigerian elections generally, because he is saying that once people feel secured, then they will come out to perform their civic duties. I think that's important, an important point. But then again, in Nigeria, you have this situation where even without IPOB threats, even in states where there are no IPOB, where you don't have IPOB at all, you have a situation where elections are often associated with violence, where people come and cut away ballot boxes, or shoot guns in the air to scare away voters and so on. So what if you have a situation where these kinds of pockets of violence breaks out, which may not necessarily be due to IPOB, but which in the current circumstances people might think is IPOB, you know, what happens under these circumstances?
There has always been pockets of violence in elections in Nigeria.
Okay.
And so if there are pockets of violence in Anambra State,
okay, then
it means there was no violence. Because the way this election have been portrayed, especially in the last few days, is like nobody will ever come out. And so what the government needs to do is to have enough policing.
Okay.
And let there be a new orientation for the security men being posted. The reason why most people ran to IPOB for cover was that even when you come out, you are suspected of criminal activities, even by doing nothing, by just appearing. If there are sit at home, and people are guaranteed that when you come out, you will not be arrested by even policemen or the army, people can come out. And so there is no problem if we experience one or two pockets of violence, because already the state is so tensed up. And so if it is actually policed well, if the police do their job, if the army, if the Air Force, if the Navy, if the DSSS, the Civil Defense, they do their job the way they ought to, this election will hold, and the kind of violence or disruption that people are fearing may not happen. After all, this is Anambra State. Anambra State is a small state in terms of landmass. The landmass of the southeast is just like,
but it's also like a state under security, so maybe the size may not be important now.
It has to be because
it's under security threat.
It's easier to police Anambra State because of its small size.
Okay.
You cannot compare policing FCT and policing Anambra State.
Okay.
Anambra State is a small. You can move from one end of Anambra when the road was okay. You can move from Onitsha Head Bridge to Umunze, which has a border with Imo State, in less than 30-45 minutes.
Interesting.
So it's not too difficult to police. It's just that people posted there, deployed there, have to do their job, and they have to do that knowing that they are there to protect democracy. Okay. Let them know that they are being deployed to protect democracy, not any other thing. Okay. In the process of protecting democracy, then you ensure that anyone who poses a threat to democracy is arrested and made to face the wrath of the law. And so that's the solution. The solution is not even envisaging a state of emergency, which will boil down into the stereotype of certain groups that said what they are waiting for is to impose a leader on us.
What about the state governor? Because the state governors are important to the security network of the country. Yeah. But we have a situation here where the state governor, his own party, is in the election, you know, as alongside other parties. And we have a special, you know, circumstance, like you rightly, Dr. Tonko rightly mentioned earlier. So what do you think the state governor can do, considering that they don't control the security agencies in the country?
Is to give maximum support to the security agencies that will be on duty. That's all.
Okay.
Give maximum support. It is not the state government that is going to conduct the election. Okay. It is not the state government that is going to deploy the troops.
Okay.
It is the federal government, which we rightly believe that the federal government always has this semblance of impartiality wherever they go. That is why we could trust the army. That's why we could trust the security agencies. And so as long as they go there and perform their duties as required by law, there is nothing the state government has to do. The state government under APGA is an interested party in the election.
Yes.
So you cannot expect them to actually do the right thing. It's only the federal government, whichever party that is in power, that we expect to always do the right thing. It doesn't matter whether your party is contesting or not contesting.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're taking a break for a minute. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. We'll be taking a break for a minute. When we come back, we'll look at the roles that the political parties, particularly the smaller political parties, have to play in ensuring a free and fair election in Anambra State on November 9. The program continues after a roundup of political news from around the country. Please stay with us.
Francis Zimbo of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has emerged winner of the rescheduled chairmanship election in Zangon Kataf local government area of Kaduna State. Returning officer Professor Nuhu Garba, while declaring the results, said Zimbo scored 28,771 votes to defeat John Hassan of the All Progressives Congress, APC, who polled 19,509 votes. The PDP also clinched 9 councillorship seats, while the APC won the remaining 2. The election was rescheduled over the security situation in the area at the time of the Kaduna State local government elections. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has detained a former secretary to the government of the Federation, Senator Anyim Pius Anyim, in connection with the ongoing probe of a former Minister of Aviation, Stella Odua. Anyim, who was reportedly quizzed for several hours, is reported to have passed Sunday night in the facility of the Anti-Graft Agency. According to sources, the invitation and interrogation is in connection with a case of money laundering when Senator Anyim served as the secretary to the government of the Federation under the Jonathan administration. Media reports say that part of the Aviation Ministry's 780 million naira was traced to a company in which Anyim has interest. The National Working Committee of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, has suspended the Anambra State Chairman of the party, Mr. Wester Okonkwo, and Secretary, Mr. K. Anyacho, for anti-party activities. National Secretary of the party, Shehu Musa Gabam, said the suspended executives showed gross insubordination and lack of capacity to unite the party in the state. The suspended officials were directed to hand over to their deputies pending further investigation and decisions of the party. The suspension is coming weeks to the Anambra State gubernatorial election. The Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP National Convention Organizing Committee, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, has said the party remains committed to the October 30 to 31 date for the party's national convention, despite legal issues surrounding the conduct. He said the case instituted against the party in a Kaduna High Court would not stop the party, as the convention was not meant to witch hunt anyone or truncate anyone's mandate. He called on members and supporters of the party to focus on the task ahead and avoid distractions. Former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has said Nigeria will thrive under a leadership that will unify and promote peace in the country. According to him, Nigeria needs a leadership that will bring stability, restructure the country, reform the economy, and bring about cohesion in the nation. The former Vice President was speaking at an event to mark the 70th birthday anniversary of engineer Raymond Dokwesi.
Welcome back, viewers. With me, Dr. Yunusa Tenko and Mr. Madu Oniora, veteran journalist and veteran politician, respectively. Together, we've been discussing the looming elections in Anambra State. But before we continue, let me bring you a small interview and a small view of Alhaji Shehu Musa, who has spoken about the election in Anambra State.
I will never support non-state actors to hold any state to ransom. I will never support government to submit to threats, to intimidation by any individual or group of individuals. Otherwise, the territorial integrity of Nigeria is on the question mark. So government have the machinery, have the capacity, have the know-how to bring the situation under control. In the absence of doing that, they are the same government. Because if you push people into the states, a lot of lives were lost, an election was not conducted. What did you achieve? So you have to weigh two options. One, to say, okay, I'm taking the risks to guarantee people go and conduct elections. And you end up having unavoidable crisis, unavoidable loss of life. Who take responsibility? Government must take responsibility for whatever happens there because they guarantee to secure everybody. Otherwise, there is nothing like feeling ashamed of postponing the election. After all, the national election was postponed before. And the issue here is that it's a situation that involves human lives. The situation is tense. And anybody that goes in knows that there are possibilities of coming out or not coming out. So the federal government can decide to say, look, either way they have not also succumbed to the threat by saying that, okay, in view of the situation, we are either shifting this election by 1 month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or take the ultimate decision, declare state of emergency, and then put a military administrator, restore peace and order, and then you develop the timetable to conduct election in the state. There is no any other way out of this, unless if you develop complex, and because you think nobody can do otherwise, you end up embarrassing yourself, embarrassing the system, and the record will go in your own history during your time such thing has happened.
Thank you very much.
If you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Earlier, we were discussing the Anambra November 6 elections, but we will be going on to a new topic to discuss about internal democracy. But before then, Dr. Tanko, as someone who has been in politics for a long time, what do you think when INEC says that they are ready to conduct the elections? Do you believe them? And should Nigerians believe them?
Yes, we should believe INEC, considering the fact that over time, INEC has improved over and over in any of their elections. And I look to the fact that what happened in Edo, I was there as an observer and observed the election and some of the ways in which INEC conducted the election, and then follow up to what happened in Ondo. Shows that INEC has improved within the time, and at the same time for INEC to stamp its feet ready and saying against all odds that they are ready to transmit electoral results electronically against all odds. That shows that they are actually ready to really give Nigerians some of the best of their own profession, so that we can expect free and fair election that will usher in good governance, at the same time devoid of violence and unacceptability. Because quite honestly, our elections should not always be taken to the court of law before we can get the person in position. It's supposed to be elected at the polling station, election result is being placed, and the winner seeing that yes, he really won the election. The people also be sure that the person that they voted for is the person that they return as elected, and then the loser also see that he was also defeated in such a way that all of them cannot end up working together, not working at this at variance. It's part of this particular variance that has caused a lot of problems, especially in what we saw in Imo State. Okay,
thank you very much. So we'll be moving from Anambra State. Mr. Onora, in the past few weeks, we've had this situation where both major parties in the country have held their conventions, you know, the APC, the PDP, but the conventions, they all looked alike. They were marked by violence, they were marked, and congresses, statewide, first local congresses, but now statewide congresses. But they were marked by violence, you know, by parallel congresses or executive committees across various states. Why are these things happening again and again and again and again in Nigerian politics?
It has to happen because it is just power grab that politicians are waiting for. That's what they are working for. To grab, to get to power, to be at the table where decisions are taken. And the moment a politician feels that his interest is not being protected by those at the table, he forms another table. And that is what is causing all these factions. And because that idea of democracy, the way you can read it in textbooks, has not been ingrained in the hearts and minds of our politicians. They do anything. Any politician who sees that he's going to lose out, if a particular candidate emerges as chairman of the party, that he's going to lose out on the coming congresses for positions, we will have to find a way to either break out or form a parallel committee or a parallel congress in order to have a bargaining chip. So they are doing it solely for selfish reasons, not for the advancement of the Nigerian democracy. And so you keep seeing it because there are things they are looking for outside going to serve. Because if it is just going to serve and actually serving in the way we saw our politicians in the First Republic, Second Republic, they wouldn't do it the way they are doing it, which is doing it with so much of thuggery and so much of violence, and brazenly, even before voting starts, you're already declaring you have a faction. It shows that there are things outside the normal democratic norms that they are pursuing, which is selfish.
Dr. Tanko, so they are not doing it for the advancement of Nigerian democracy, they are doing it for their own selfish interest. He's talking to people like yourself who are politicians. Do you agree with this?
Well, you know, I've always agreed I'm a politician, but on a different background. But to an ordinary Nigerian, it doesn't really matter. I had some people calling us small political parties, all kind of things. And meanwhile, we are mighty because I know from the background in which I come from. I took over from Femi Falana.
Okay.
Femi Falana took over from Dr. Osagio Obayuana. Dr. Osagio Obayuana took over from Chief Gani Fawayimi. That is my lineage. That is my calling. And I have been consistent over the years. So, but I will not divide myself from the normal contemporary politician, because all of us are going to be together. But how do you distill it? It's only when you try the other people that you know the difference. But we have not been given the opportunity or tried in certain ways. So I will not agree to the fact that some of the things that happen, our laws, our legal frameworks is weak.
Okay.
Execution of those particular legal framework is also weak.
Okay.
Then the issue of political parties performing their statutory duties according to the rules and regulations is also weak.
How does that affect the party congresses?
Exactly. Now, for example, when you talk about political parties, the political parties majority of them do not even pay their membership dues.
Okay.
So the finances of the political parties are in the hands of those who have money.
The money bags.
Yes. So in that case, those that have money bags, especially a case study of Anambra, every contestant is a billionaire. So he has the wherewithal and he has the war chest to challenge any situation. So in that situation, it will be what do you have against what I can give. So the challenges are much within that rank. So the ordinary members of the political party become whims and caprices of what is being given to them. So the internal democracy becomes a big problem. So emergence of a candidate may not be that of the best within the political party. It's only he who pays the pipers, dictate the tunes, and emerge. So you see this particular serious battle to get to that particular top. And because the leadership of the party themselves are not leading as a political party leadership, as chairman and political party, they are also under the payroll of whoever emerges. Okay. So for them to actually put the rules and regulation on in the right place becomes a problem for them. Okay. When it comes to the issue of Electoral Act, which is our legal framework, the legal framework is to give political parties or individuals who become candidates of the party a leverage over the political party structure. So, and then immediately when somebody emerges, he becomes lords and master. And that is why up to today, governors, local government chairmen, even the president becomes members of executive of a political party, rather being members of a political party, just like what we saw in the other republic. So some of these particular issues become inimical to the survival of democracy, which we need to take care of. If we don't take care of these little things, we will end up having a situation where the candidates, the political parties, and then even those electoral laws that we have becoming more or less like a whims and caprices of whoever can pay the money or move the people to his own interest. So it becomes a big problem. Until when we go back to the drawing board, ensure that the Electoral Act is being cleaned and signed into law, execution becomes expedient, and anybody that is found wanting, even within the political party, is being dealt with. That way, the structure of the political party takes supreme.
Mr. Onora, talking about the Electoral Act, why do we keep having a new Electoral Act or an amendation or proposals to amend the Electoral Act every 4 years? Because some countries have Electoral Act, they use it for 20, 30 years before new challenges emerge, and then they change it to meet current realities. Why is it that in Nigeria we have Electoral Act 2010 as amended 2011, as amended 2015, as amended 2019, and now we are going to another amendment towards 2023? Why do we keep having that?
We have to admit that we are growing this democracy.
Okay.
And there are certain things that ought to be that have not been, like the issue of electronic transmission of results.
Okay.
The discussion didn't start today.
Okay.
But this is the only time there have been a consensus, there have been a passage, an agreement, and hopefully it will be signed into law. And so you keep having it until at a certain point in our democracy, we now have a consensus that this is the way we have to run this democracy.
Okay.
As of now, there's no consensus among the political class,
okay.
even among the civil society organizations, no agreement on what should be. And we hope that the next dispensation after 2023, there won't be much pressure to enact amendments into the Electoral Act.
Okay.
Because the major issues seem to be captured in this present one. What has actually been the main contention has been this electronic transmission of results. And you can bet that if the president doesn't sign it into law, which is very unlikely that he will not sign, then it will reappear again as an issue.
Thank you very much. There are many issues in that Electoral Act that we would like, because you said many of the issues have already now been taken care of. The electronic transmission of results, the amount of money a candidate can spend, and so on and so forth. We'll be looking at this, particularly on how this affect the largest categories of voters in Nigeria, the women and the youths. But before we go to that, Dr. Tanko, you represent a particular kind of political parties in Nigeria, political parties that they hold their principles there, particularly the lineage that you recounted earlier, all the way to Chief Gani Fawemi. We see that these other major parties, the PDP, and they are having their congresses, but we haven't seen the I don't want to use the word, but smaller parties holding congresses. Does that also mean that they too don't have internal democracy?
No, they are holding congresses, but the press doesn't even look at their own side even when they are holding.
Interesting. Which ones have held congresses in
like, for example, although we are having issues with INEC at the moment in the court of law, the timetable of our primary election has already been out about 2 months ago. And many people did not even know that it's been out. And so also are other political parties. I'm sure the ZLP too had its own primaries. And so also is ADC had its own primaries. But nobody will promote those particulars because they are counted as small political parties. But had it been that they have won election, they will have been in the eye of the press. And they will have known exactly what time they are doing their primaries or what they are doing. And this is where I have to give, with all due respect to some other media houses and International Republican Institute, IRI. Why I said this because at the time in which I was secretary to secretary, we engineered this Interparty Advisory Council, midwifing it up to when I became the chairman of the Interparty Advisory Council. There is this argument on the civil society group, which of course stifled the so-called political party, the one you called small political party, of course, they are mighty in our eyes because we have always been in
my eyes too.
Yes, because what we did, majority of the so-called political parties that are big could not do. Because I remember with nostalgia, we took issues of multi-democratic system into court cases, and we won. It was because of we winning that particular case that brought in the APC conglomerate of them merging or going to become a big party. So you see, we have been midwifing basic interests that will interest democracy long even before now. And so at that point in time, when we became the chairman of IPAC, the International Republican Institute did something. Why this accusation continue and the civil society continue to accuse the political party that you are the chairman, your wife is the secretary, your son is the treasurer. So when INEC gives money, the money goes to the family and all. But
which is true.
But the question is, are they not Nigerians? How do you compare them with those who are still in Nigeria?
But that doesn't show representation, does it?
No, they are Nigerians. They have a statutory right. What happened to those who are still in the government treasury?
So if the party wins an election, that's how they will run the government?
No, the question is that
father, mother, children?
The question is that would they run the election based on rules and regulations that extend in the Constitution? That is the question. If they are doing it within the rules of laws and regulations, they are not found wanting. But the fact is that eventually INEC sent auditors 2 times in a year to audit the account. But you hardly find those auditors in the so-called big political parties. So there have been disparities and unfairness on all these political parties.
Thank you.
The idea is that for us as political parties, we have always been there for the people to see value in most of the things that we do. If we have been, the investigation that IRI conducted, they went into every political party houses and checked them. And at the end of it all, they found out that most of the accusations were not true.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Onura, the small parties aside, or the
I would like it if you
the non-major parties aside. Let's call them the non-major parties aside. You know, because the reality is that parties are measured by the strength of their representation in elective offices. And currently, the parties that have the most representation across the states and national offices are the APC and the PDP.
Of course.
And then to a lesser extent, parties like ABGA and so on. So
I don't mean the party,
that's all right. But the issue is that the major ones, this PDP and APC, these are the ones that Nigerians have their attention on, and yet these are the ones that their congresses have been marred with violence, with legal cases, and all that. Does that portend something about the 2023 elections? Because sometimes you hear this saying that the Friday that is going to be good, you begin to see the signs from Wednesday. Is it are these signs of a bad Friday ahead for us in 2023?
Yeah, we should be worried about 2023.
Okay.
In the sense that most Nigerians believe that they need to be in government.
Okay.
A section of the political elite feel they have been out of power for so long, just 8 years. And the APC that is in power feels they have not even lived up to half of what PDP did in power. Now, what is coming up is clash of interests. And this, when interests clash, is either they take it the civil way or they take it the violent way. It depends on the leadership of the political parties and whoever will emerge as a candidate for presidency and governorship. If they are pro-violence, you will see violence. If they are non-violent, you will not see violence. And so it all depends on the people who will be candidates in the elections. And if the people who want to win the election at all costs fail to get it, believe me, they will even move to the other party to enlist the same violence.
Thank you. Just 1 minute. Dr. Yunusa, the Senate recently passed part of the electoral amendment. They passed a bill which seeks, or a resolution, an article within that bill, which seeks to make direct primaries in political parties compulsory. Do you think this will improve the state of internal democracy within political parties?
I have two issues with the issue of the direct primaries.
Okay.
One, it is going to cost INEC INEC enormous sum of money and deployment of resources to man every. That means that 120,000 units in which they are going to conduct the primary, INEC must be there. It's just like conducting an election on its own. And two, the issue of political parties themselves may not be.
But is it worth it? Is it not?
Yes,
because if primaries are not fair, how can the general elections?
I'm talking about the disadvantages.
Yeah, okay.
And when we talk about disadvantages for the political parties, they may not have that particular financial waters to be able to conduct that particular direct primaries. It's not all the political parties that will be able to do so, and including deployment of human and material resources. On the other hand of the advantage, fine, it gives the opportunity for every member of the political group to at least to be inclusive in selecting who they want, vis-a-vis the issue of having an indirect primary where you select person. But either way, if it is done fairly, clearly, it will all result to the same thing. But at least it should have been left for the choice of the political parties.
Thank you very much. My final question goes to you, Mr. Onora. The electronic transmission of results, that didn't used to be an issue in Nigerian politics, but in recent years it has become a major issue. The House of Reps and the Senate, they had to disagree and then later agree. What do you think can that lead to? Do you really think it's important to have free and fair elections in the country?
It's important for us to have this electronic transmission of results, at least enshrined as part of the electoral law. We have a problem. It is the same politicians that have been manipulating every aspect of the election to their advantage that will now be part of the same electronic transmission. It all depends on INEC and the security operative that will be on ground at the polling booths. If it is business as usual, there will be no difference. It might even get worse. But if there is a change of attitude on the part of INEC officials and the security operatives, then it will help Nigeria to move towards the kind of democracy we want. Also, manipulations by politicians is so massive in these elections that it will take an appeal, a major change of heart for us to get what we want from what we have been fighting for in these electoral law amendments. And so it all depends on the hearts and minds of these politicians. If they want to do evil, their usual evil, it will not make any difference. If there's going to be change of mind, here we are. The democracy we want is here.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. On that note, we will be concluding today's program. I am Suleiman. Please join us again tomorrow. Thank you and good night.